President Trump's statement that he will be Iran's best friend and his actions with regard to the downing of the U.S. Spy drone, and that's exactly what it is. These drone operations are used for two purposes. They're either used for military strikes, offensive purposes, or they're used for espionage. And flying these drones over Iran's airspace violates Iran's territorial integrity. Iran was wholly correct in downing that drone, and Iran showed great restraint in not downing the manned aircraft. But Donald Trump's actions culminated in his statement that he would be Iran's best friend and he would make Iran great again. It's very reminiscent and identical to his conduct with regard to North Korea. Donald Trump has a history of making very boisterous, threatening, and verbose comments, fire and fury, and you'll see when asked what his responses are going to be to certain events. And then he will back down. And most of his verbose comments are meant to appease his Zionist, neocon, and evangelical base, who have been banging the drums of war against Iran going back to the Ronald Reagan administration and since the 1979 Islamic Revolution. The sad thing is that Trump has filled his administration with these Zionist neocon persons in the form of John Bolton and Mike Pompeo, and it's becoming evident that there is a clear divide within the Trump administration. The neocons continue to manipulate the administrative functions of Trump's administration, pushing him to the brink of war, and then Trump, just when the trigger is about to be pulled, Trump backs down because he knows that his political base, the base that elected him, the 40% base that he works very hard to keep in line, has absolutely no appetite and is absolutely against any more wars in the Middle East. So that is the sole reason that Trump has backed down, because if he were to engage in any military engagements, that would probably be the first time that he would see a decline in his political support. And of course, the neocons and the Zionists and the evangelicals keep banging this false narrative about Iranian nuclear weapons. They ignore the fact that the supreme leader of the Islamic Revolution in Iran since 2005 has specifically banned the development of nuclear weapons. But they keep the evangelicals, the neocons and Zionists that are dominating the public policy portion of Trump's administration, keeps demanding that Trump demand Iran to cease development of something that it has never sought to develop. That is the charade that they use to try to force Trump into military engagements against Iran and to continue economic terrorism in the form of sanctions. The United States cannot make Iran great again. Iran has been a great country for centuries before the United States was even created. What the United States can do is to cease its economic terrorism so Iran could grow its economy even greater. Iran has done quite well in spite of U.S. sanctions. So the false narratives and intellectual dishonesty of American administrations going back to the Reagan administration is nothing but a canard being used by neocons and Zionists and evangelicals to force a war on Iran and to force a war on the American people, of which neither want.